y'all, Dixie here. Today I want to tell you about the gear that I carried on Bratcher's first very short backpacking trip. For those who watched the video of our trip, you probably know that I carried Bratcher and all of his things, and Rodney carried the rest of our stuff, like his stuff and my stuff. Basically, all we did is we went 1 mile up Springer Mountain, camped for the night, and then turned around and came back 1 mile to the parking lot the next day, just because I wanted to keep it short and simple and basically just do a trial run of Bratcher's gear. And really, I also wanted to see if he would like it before we just bit off more than we could chew. All of the clothes and all of the gear items will be linked to in my ladder packs list in the video description if you want to check that out. So first, let's talk about the carrier, because that was the first piece of gear that I was kind of stressed about picking out, and I knew it was really important to get something that would be comfortable enough for him, but also something that would be protective of him, because my biggest fear is falling and my child getting hurt. And also I needed some space to carry his things, because I didn't want to just carry him and then Rodney have his stuff, my stuff, and Bratcher stuff. So because I had a lot of recommendations for the Poco, which is made by Osprey, that's the one I went with. Now they have several different options. There are some that are more lightweight than this one and cheaper. This Poco is the Poco Premium, and it has 36 liters of storage space, which honestly worked out just about perfect for us. It also has an internal aluminum frame, so that was important to me. I didn't want a soft carrier where he could get hurt if I were to fall on him. I mean, I don't fall a whole lot, but I certainly have fallen, you know, enough times that I don't want to risk that. The carrying capacity, the weight limit of this carrier is 48.5 pounds, and that's with the child, the weight of the carrier itself, and then whatever gear, water, food you have. Overall, the carrier worked out really well. It's comfortable. I could adjust it to my body well. I mean, Osprey is a good brand, and that's the first pack I used on my thru hike of the AT was an Osprey brand pack. So I'm familiar with it. It was comfortable. I mean, my hips were sore at the end of the hike, but that's normal for me for a first day after I've, you know, not been backpacking for several months, but I didn't have any bruising or anything like that. Bratcher seems to like it, and on the trail he was pretty happy as long as I kept moving. He does not like when the horse stops. Let's see if we can test that out right now. But I feel like Bratcher was secure and very comfortable, the way that the seat is in there and the way that it buckles him in, and again the frame protects him. I just think it's, you know, really nicely set up. And I mean, he was comfortable enough that all the way down the mountain he took a nap. So I think this is something that we'll definitely continue to use going forward, and we'll get out and get some exercise together. I can ruck around the neighborhood, or hopefully even start doing some little local trails. They do make a rain cover type deal for this child carrier. I will probably go ahead and purchase that so I have it in the future. I knew we were just gonna be, like I said, 1 mile away from the vehicle, and the sunshade protector, which is up right now, was pretty useful as far as just being water resistant and keeping the rain off of him for at least 1 mile. But I would not be relying on that long term. Plus, I mean, it's pretty porous on the side. I mean, it's a shade thing, so it's meant to be ventilated. It was only sprinkling, so it was fine for that, but I just wouldn't want to rely on that for anything heavier or a longer distance. As far as the space goes, this 36 liters was like just enough for us. I might have been able to squeeze more space out of it if I had packed it better, but I also had like my pumping stuff and bottles that take up a pretty decent amount of space. I had 3 bottles. So without those things, we definitely could have saved on space. So if we were going on a longer trip and I was no longer pumping, then, you know, we'd have more space for food. All of the stuff, Bratcher's clothes and sleeping bag and all that I did not want to get wet, I put in a Nilo Fume pack liner. They are very lightweight very cheap, and that's just my go-to. That's what I use in my pack. I think my only real complaint about this carrier is the cup holder situation. They have some holders on the top. Oh, is he going out? He is out, okay. Obviously it's comfortable. The little cup holder there on the top is great for stuff. I guess it's not even a cup holder, but the storage space, whatever you want to call it, the pocket. But the actual cup holder, it's just so shallow. So anything just like flops out of there if it's top heavy. So having a smart water bottle, even without the Sawyer squeeze attached to it, it's just flopping out. And unless you really cram stuff in there together to where it's squeezed in tightly, then it's, I don't know. But there could be some way to maybe add a strap to kind of rig something up. The problem then might be how convenient it is to pull your water out. But anyway, all in all, I really like the carrier, and evidently he does too. I did end up getting this carrier from REI just in case we didn't like it. I'm glad that we do, but because it was such a high price point, I didn't want to be stuck with something that just wasn't going to work for us. Next, let's talk about the stuff that I carried in the carrier other than Bratcher. First, his sleep setup. I was worried about how I was going to keep a quilt or a sleeping bag on him, and I was like, man, I'm going to wake up 100 times in the night trying to throw something back on him and he'll kick it off. And thankfully, somebody smart has invented wearable sleeping bags for kids. So I got Bratcher the Little Mo 40, and I also got it from REI because it was a little pricey. And again, I didn't want it to not work out well for him, but it worked out wonderfully. Now, it's called the Little Mo 40 because it's rated for down to 40-degree weather. And I knew at night where we were gonna be, it would be in the lower 50s. So I felt like that would be good, and I actually worried that he might get a little too warm, but thankfully he did not. He seemed to sleep perfectly in it. The Little Mo 40 is made out of nylon, and it's got synthetic insulation. I would not put a baby or a toddler, a small child in down, just in case the diaper that they had on leaked, or, you know, for whatever other reason that they might not take care to keep it dry. And, you know, down wet is just useless. Now, I wouldn't want them in a wet sleeping bag anyway, but still better to have a wet functional sleeping bag than, you know, one that's completely useless because it's soaked. For a sleeping pad, I was also kind of nervous about what to get. You know, my first thought was, well, of course, an inflatable sleeping pad is most comfortable. But then I think about, you know, as an adult who is trying to stay on a sleeping pad, how inflatable ones sometimes can be more difficult to stay on. And I didn't want him rolling off and having no insulation. So I was like, I would rather him be not as cozy or not as, you know, comfortable than not warm. So I went with a closed cell foam pad, and I got the Z-Lite Sole made by Thermarest. I thought about trimming down the sleeping pad to save a little bit of weight, but I ended up just not even fooling with that. And I'm glad that I didn't, because I kind of ended up more or less doubling it up. So the R value is typically a 2. By doubling it up, it went to a 4. And I think he would have been fine even with just the 2. But it was nice to have that option to add a little more insulation between him and the ground. Now, once I got this sleeping pad in the tent, I was like, uh-oh. I did not consider that I was putting him between me and Rodney, and now his pad was much lower than ours, and I was afraid that our pads would kind of like squish together and end up squishing him, but thankfully that didn't happen. Everything seemed to stay put pretty well, and worst case, I'd have just pulled him up on my pad because I used one of the heavier, wider pads that I have. So he would have been fine up on my pad with me. Again, worst case scenario, but it worked out well. I do think that if we had been on a steeper slope, that it could have been problematic. So going forward, I'll either continue to carry that wider sleeping pad of mine, or I'll just carry an inflatable pad for him and a closed cell foam pad. That way, if he falls off the inflatable one, he'll be on the closed cell foam pad. For clothes, I honestly just ordered some cheap stuff off of Amazon. My main focus was that it would be synthetic, because again, I didn't want him to be in cotton, it'd get wet, and him have hypothermia. So basically just focusing on synthetic, just like I would for myself. For an insulating layer, I got a fleece hoodie. The hoodie that I got, it definitely, I think, served its purpose and kept him warm, but I feel like it's a little bit heavier than it needed to be. I mean, with layering, you can have thinner layers, and having less bulky stuff seems to typically work out better. But the fleece hoodie, you know, I'm happy with it, but going forward, I'll probably try to find something more low profile. I did put a focus on finding something fleece though, and not, again, down. One, a little kid is not gonna take care of their down and protect it, you know, from holes and things like that. But again, the not wanting it to get wet, and I knew with the fleece, he probably wouldn't need it in the tent, but if he got wet during the day, fleece is still, you know, insulating. I also got some synthetic long johns for him to sleep in, and those things are so comfortable. I wish they made them in adult sizes. He ended up sleeping in the long johns in his wearable sleeping bag, and that seemed fine as far as temperature wise, comfort wise, all of that. For shoes, he's been wearing these breathable, soft soled shoes that I got off of Amazon. They've got Velcro. They seem to allow his toes display well. You know, he's got a wide toe box. And so we just took those same ones that he's been wearing with us. He didn't wear socks in the shoes to walk around in. I think the shoes would be too tight with socks, but for sleeping at night, he had wool socks, and I did get the ones that have the little grippy dots on the bottom. So even here at home, he can wear them. And they actually came in a pack of 6, and I brought 2 pair with us, one for his feet, and then just in case something happened and those got wet, or if he needed a pair for like mittens, then they could dual purpose as that. I also got a synthetic beanie from Amazon. We actually never ended up using that, but I was glad to have it and would carry it just in case on another trip. For rain gear, this is where I kind of had a fail. I knew with a really short trip that even if we had nothing for him, that we'd be fine. But I got a children's emergency poncho, and it was obviously too big for him, but I tied it up with a hair tie, and it seemed like it would work fine, you know, maybe if he was just running around with it on. But as soon as we tried to put him in the pack, it slid up, and it just did not work out well. So if I was going on a longer trip, I would have gotten him some proper rain gear, and on another trip I will do that. But I thought that the poncho would work fine for this trip, and it did not, but everything worked out fine anyway. For food, I make Bratcher's food at home. I try to do some kind of variation of what we're having, but he's still more limited in his diet than the rest of us. So anyway, I'd make him some chicken mash, like a puree with chicken and carrots and zucchini and sometimes mushrooms. And he also really loves sweet potatoes. So I made some mashed sweet potatoes and freeze-dried those. And he just seems to do better with certain meats when they're pureed, like he likes that. And then sometimes I'll mash it with avocado. But anyway, I did a chicken mash and freeze-dried it, so the freeze dryer came in clutch again. He also loves bananas, and that's an easy snack to take no matter where we're going. So I don't typically take a lot of whole foods like that backpacking just because they're heavier. But we did take some bananas up on the mountain, and that worked out well. As far as his kitchenware goes, we had a little stainless steel bowl that he uses at home anyway, and then a silicone spoon. We just used a bandana dual purpose because we use them to cook with anyway, like as a hot pad. It's good to clean up spills, and for Bratcher it worked well as a bib. We kept all of his food and dishes in a Z-Packs food bag, just like we do all of our food, and they're made out of Dyneema. But I mean, really any old cheap food bag would work just fine. I like having things sorted. I don't want to have to dig a bunch, so we all had our own individual food bags. That way it was easy to find stuff. For water, Bratcher used his typical BPA-free plastic spill-proof straw cup, and it worked fine out there even when he was throwing it down at rocks. And then of course we filtered his water using a Sawyer squeeze like we do for our water. And finally, to finish up the kitchenware, We had 3 of his normal bottles that he uses just to rotate through, because I knew, you know, I'd need to wash, and you don't want to just have one bottle that as soon as he's done, if he's wanting more milk, you got to wash, yada yada. So having 3 to rotate through made sense to us, and that worked out well. They do take up a significant amount of space, but it was worth it. And then to be able to clean the bottles, had to have a bottle brush and a little thing of dishwasher detergent. For Toiletries, Bratcher had a little mini toothbrush and my little mirror brush combo for his hair. We brought 6 diapers, which we had extras, but didn't want to have too few of those, and a whole pack of wipes for, you know, cleanup purposes. It was a little bit overkill having the full thing of wipes, but, you know, for a short trip, it better safe than sorry. And yes, we packed out all of the dirty stuff. And last but not least, for Bratcher's luxury item, we brought a little foam ball that he got at an event in downtown Opelika. They were giving it away, and it has just been one of his favorite toys. Well, other than my little miniature baby powder, he likes to doot that, pretend he's doot-dooting that in our hair and his hair. I mean, I think he just likes to hit us in the head with something, to be honest, but yeah, that ball really paid off to have it. It's lightweight, didn't take up a lot of space, and I wanted him to be able to have a toy and, you know, something to do. And so, you know, other than scare the life out of me falling on rocks. So having that to throw, we really had a lot of fun with that. So anyway, that is the gear that we brought for little man on this trip. And all of that I've mentioned totals up to about 15.5 pounds. He weighs about 23 pounds. So the known weight of all the gear, not including food, water, and my pumping stuff, but the gear and Bratcher comes out to 38.5 pounds. So with food, water, and the pumping stuff, we were probably at least 5 pounds under that weight max for the carrier, which is 48.5 pounds. Thinking about the future, if we were going on a longer trip, we would need to have more wiggle room weight-wise to have more food. And so I was like, man, we're really kind of pushing that limit. But if you consider, like, he's not always going to be breastfeeding, so at some point we won't need the bottles, we won't need the breast pump supplies, and those took up a good bit of space. So considering that even with those we had about 5 pounds of wiggle room, even as he continues to grow, and if we were to go on a longer trip and need more food, you know, I think we could figure it out. But I think this carrier will work out for us for a good long while, or at least, you know, as long as he needs to be toted. Another thing, I will probably wait till it's a little bit warmer to go on another trip like this. I definitely wouldn't have wanted to go if it was any colder, because, you know, it becomes riskier. And when you're just getting out there and learning, whether it's adults learning to backpack or learning again how to backpack with now, you know, a human that depends on you, I think it's best to go when you set yourself up for success. I wouldn't have gone with the rain that was going to come, except, you know, again, we were only a mile from the car. But on a longer trip, I would have even waited until there was not rain predicted. But I guess that's something to consider with the weight of things too, was the temperature. So if it was warmer out, then, you know, some of the gear, at least what Rodney was carrying, probably wouldn't have been so heavy on him. Now, for those of y'all who have children and have not yet gotten into backpacking with them, and you're thinking, ain't no way I can do that. Like, she made it look easy, something must be wrong with my kids, whatever. If you think that was easy, I'm gonna tell you, we definitely had some hiccups. There were some very stressful moments, even gathering the gear. Like, I get anxious before a backpacking trip, and knowing like I could be putting my son in danger by doing this, you know, you wanna get the wheels turning in my brain. Like, I get super nervous before backpacking trips still. So, it was not super simple, it was not breezy, but it was worth it, y'all. To see him out there having so much fun, to go back to a place that just changed my life so much, and to share it with my family was amazing. And I recommend you do it. Get out there, again, make it as, you know, low risk as possible. Stay near the car, even just go camping. But to start babies in the outdoors as early as possible. I just think that's the way to go. I think they need to grow up seeing what the priorities are in life. And I think spending time in nature does that for us. It gets us back in touch with our roots. It, you know, heals us. And so, I don't know. I think just starting them off as early as you can, and this truly is really the earliest that I could have gotten Bratcher out there. He was just so bad off his first 5 to 6 months of life, and I'll quit preaching, but I do think it's very important to get them started as early as possible, and I sure am glad we did. So for any parents who are experienced taking your babies out backpacking, I would love to hear how you make things go more smoothly, the gear that you take, what works out well for y'all, because I am a beginner once again. So anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful, and we will see y'all next time.